They're not the same. They're different. And for us to say that us in our humanity, we are the same as angels, we're certainly off base there, because we aren't the same as angels. Angels are different than we are. And so there's going to be a difference, and he's trying to teach us the difference between what we are now and what we're going to be. Verse 41, there's one glory of the sun, and another glory of the moon, and another glory of the stars, for one star differeth from another star in glory. So there's one glory of the sun. I saw a science thing the other day, and they're measuring the sun, and they're going to look in, they say they can look into the core of the sun and see what's happening in the core of the sun. Now, you know, I'm really concerned about what's happening in the core of the sun. I'm going to lay awake at night wondering what in the world's happening in the core of the sun. You know, I could care less about that. I think all the millions of dollars they're spending on studying the core of the sun is something else. But the sun is there, and it's a glory. If it wasn't for the sun, we couldn't live, could we? God has created the sun, and he's created the glory of the moon. And the moon is a beautiful thing at night. But the moon is only a reflection off of the sun. The sun is still the brightest. The S-U-N is the brightest thing in heaven, and the S-O-N is the brightest thing in heaven, right? So the Son of God is the brightest thing. We need to think of him. But the sun, there's a glory of the sun, another glory of the moon. Certainly the moon is secondary to the sun. The moon is smaller. The moon doesn't have any light of its own. It's only reflected light of the sun. So the moon certainly is a lesser glorified planet than the sun. And there's another glory of the stars. For one star differeth from another star in glory. I remember one time I've got a friend that was working in a scientific lab for the Army, and in one of the labs they built a circular roof. And they took all the stars and they measured the ray light that came from them. They measured all of that, and then they fixed the lights in this building with the same amount of light, so that they duplicated the heavens. They duplicated the heavens with all of the rays, everyone being exactly the same, the distance being the same, and everything. They duplicated that so they could study the heavens for navigation. And so every star has a different light that it portrays. A different, if you measure the light, every ray is different from every star. There's no two stars exactly alike. And so he says that one star differ from another star in glory. So one star is different from another. You look at the heavens, all the stars out there, and we can't even see all of them, but every one is different. But you know something? God knows every star. He knows where it's at, and he knows the amount of light it sends out. And I think when we get to heaven, we're going to differ one from another. We're not going to all look just exactly alike. Some people said, well, when we get to heaven, we're all going to be just like Jesus Christ. We're going to look like him. I don't think so. I think we're going to be like him, but we're going to be ourselves. We're going to be like him in the fact that we have this glorified body and we have all the blessings, but we're going to be different. We're going to be recognizable as individual people. Verse 42, so also is the resurrection of the dead. So also is the resurrection of the dead. Different kind of fleshes, and there's celestial bodies, terrestrial bodies, and everyone has its own makeup. Everyone is an individual. Everyone is something that God has made individually, but we're all going to be resurrected in this glorified body. So also is the resurrection of the dead. It is sown in corruption, it is raised incorruptible. Now there's a tremendous change right there. This body is corruptible. We have all kinds of things, and we know that when someone dies, we don't like to talk about it. It's not pleasant. But when someone dies, the first thing we got to think about is to bury them. We put them out. Abraham said to put my dead out of my sight. We bury them because our body very quickly begins to deteriorate. And so we realize that our body is corruptible. And it's going to go back to dust one day. And when a body is buried in the earth, which I don't know today how they bury the bodies. They've got all these vaults and this and that and the other and everything. Years ago, people come across the prairie, they just dug a grave and wrapped them in a blanket and buried them. And I would submit to you now that all those graves where those people buried in blankets across there with the people coming across, there's nothing in that grave now. It's gone. Just dust to dust. And so we realize this body is sown corruptible. But it's going to be raised incorruptible. It's going to be raised a body that will never corrupt again. It's incorruptible. It never will be, they'll never be sore. Isn't that great? The new body's never going to be sore. It's probably never going to have a bruise on it. It's never going to bleed, because one thing, it won't have any blood in it. I honestly believe that the resurrected body will be without blood. I think it'll be spirit and bone. And so the life now is in the blood. And we're corruptible, but the life is in the blood. In the new body, the life is in the spirit. What a marvelous change. Incorruptible. It'll live forever. Everlasting. Never wear out. Never grow weary. Never grow tired. And it never needs sleep. Which my body today, I don't know if it needs sleep, but it enjoys it. You know? In fact, after lunch today, I'll probably enjoy some more. But the fact is that in heaven, there's never night. It's one eternal day without a clock. It's just now. Just now. Just going to be now forever. And it's never going to be an end. We don't have to get tired and go to bed and rest. I don't know that we have to eat. I'm not sure. Of course, God being gracious as He is, He'll probably have a corner for Baptists with some fruit trees. Because we always got to eat. Can't get two Baptists together without food. But anyway, I don't know that we're going to have to eat. It's an incorruptible body. It's a spiritual body. And it's so much different than what we live in now. And we just can't hardly picture ourselves living in that condition and that wonder and that joy. So it is sown incorruptible, is raised incorruptible. It is sown in dishonor. It is raised in glory. It is sown in weakness, is raised in power. It is sown in dishonor. You know what dishonors us? Sin. For the wages of sin is death. And sin is passed upon all men, for that all have sinned. So the fact is that every one of us who live in a human physical body have dishonored our body and dishonored God with our sin. And we are dishonorable. We're dishonorable. And we don't like to look at ourselves like that. We like to think, oh, I'm a pretty good person. And I look around and see all the people around me, I'm better than they are. So what? They're not any good either. You know, we measure ourselves among ourselves, which is wrong. You know who we need to measure ourselves against is Christ. When you measure yourself against Christ, where do you come out? Dishonorable. That's what they say here. It is sown in dishonor, corrupt. It is raised in glory. We are glorified. It's a glorified body. It's raised in glory. There is no sin. There is no corruption. There is no death. There is no dishonor. There is